I sent to that conversation, now joined in the studio by Gauteng ANC spokesperson Lesego Makhubela. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you for, thanks for inviting me, and good evening to your listeners.
8 years in the making. Even the brinkmanship that we saw a little bit earlier on could not prevent the fall of Cilliers Brink. He is no longer the mayor. First and foremost, let's look at the decision itself, how it was arrived at. Many saying this is, in fact, not many, Solim Simang saying this is the ANC in Gauteng acting outside of the spirit of the government of national unity.
I think that is quite upset. I listened to that characterization. That is quite upset. Every coalition deal that we've entered into, whether it's in Ekurhuleni, it's in the city of Johannesburg, now in Tshwane and everywhere else, including in the government of provincial unity, we have done it through consulting our national structures. The ANC, unlike the DA, it's a unitary structure. So whatever the national says, it binds all the lower structures. So we've done everything in tandem, in consultation with our national leaders, giving us a stamp of approval. When we entered into a coalition in Johannesburg, we entered through a stamp of approval from our leaders. Now we used to have a framework which has now become policy in terms of how to manage these particular coalitions. It's an ANC policy on how we do it. So for him to actually go out and say it is the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC in Gauteng, it's quite upset. He wants to actually isolate the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC from its motherboard, which is not the case.
What is the guarantee that indeed this is a decision that will be backed by National? Because I mean, we're also hearing reports, unconfirmed, that National was having conversation with the DA around the city of Tshwane.
Well, I mean, National has taken a decision from as far as when we constituted coalitions everywhere else. When you enter into such coalitions, you speak to everybody. You don't exclude anyone. You speak to everybody. You speak to all the parties who are represented in that particular council to say, this is the dilemma that we have. These are the challenges that we have. And we think we need to actually intervene. What do you think about it? So speaking to the DA, speaking to Action SA, speaking to EFF, speaking to other parties, smaller parties in that particular municipality is not untoward. That is our attitude, and that is what the policy on coalition says. Speak to everybody and find the mechanisms of ensuring that whatever you do, at the heart of everything you do, it must be people-centered. It must be about service delivery. It must be about the sustainability of that particular city and the viability of that municipality. Yeah. So
interesting that you come to that coalition agreement, because that coalition agreement would have dictated what we saw happening in the Joburg Council, where the ANC says we are the majority party, we take mayorship. In Ekurhuleni, same thing, says the coalition agreement now that you've sat down and decided this is how we run them, the ANC is going to run that municipality. Is that the case in Tshwane?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have a framework which is now ANC policy, which dictates on how you should be able to approach this particular coalition governments that we want to form. The ANC has a lion's share of seats in that particular municipality, just like it had the lion's share of seats in Tshwane, Johannesburg, and everywhere else. And therefore, even if it's about, putting a proper mayor that is supposed to lead that particular city from the quagmire it finds itself, but you have to be able to consult broadly with all these parties that helped us to carry this motion today. All of them, including a political party which has one seat and a party that has two councillors in that particular council. Because once we start to have a discussion about who becomes a mayor, before we start agreeing on the principles on what should govern this coalition, it is going to collapse before it even starts. It will be like hunting with salt. It will not be about placing at the heart of this coalition the people and residents of Tshwane who've been suffering for 8 long years. So that's why we are not yet there to decide who's a mayor or how it should happen and everything. We will be, on terms of who must become a mayor, we will be guided by the policy of the ANC on coalitions. But there has to be a set of principles that we place first. Yeah. Tshwane owes Eskom 6.8 billion. 6.8 billion. They are in court with Eskom from next week. Eskom is not going to care who is running Tshwane. They are in court. They have taken the municipality to court. You will know that the Auditor General has just now recently came and said Tshwane has spent about 13 billion fruitlessly. You know, before that, I mean, the financial statements of the city were falsified, according to the Auditor General. They submitted financial statements and misrepresented themselves to the Auditor General, and there are a whole lot of issues. We're speaking about Eskom as one of its biggest clients, but you can start thinking about the small, medium enterprises that transact with the city, which are helping the city to provide services. Those people are owed. So literally, the city is technically insolvent. And therefore, we have to have a different discussion about that. We can't discuss positions before we start saying, these are the principles that have to be placed. Then we can come and say, these are the people who can be able to take this city forward. You can't play with that city. The world sees South Africa through the city of Tshwane. It's a capital city. That's where we have embassies, high commissions, and all these other people who are coming from the global world who actually view South Africa through the city of Tshwane. So we've got to be careful on how we assemble a team that is able to then pull that city out of the quagmire it finds itself in.
So I'm sure you've heard Herman Mashaba. He says they are kingmakers. He's given himself that status. And he says one of the conditions is that Dr. Nasiphi Moya must be the executive mayor.
What we welcome from Herman Mashaba is the Damascus moment, a mighty change of heart. I mean, Herman Mashaba, who before elections said not in a million years will he even consider working with the ANC either in Johannesburg at national in the city of Tshwane, but also helping us today to carry this ANC-sponsored motion. That we appreciate. That he's able to be honest together with his with the members of his party. They are able to be honest and say, look, we are comfortable. We've got a deputy mayor in that particular. They are part of the mess, by the way. We've got a deputy mayor in this particular arrangement. We've got people who have been appointed as chairpersons of committees, and we are comfortable here. But the direction in which this city was being led to, it's disastrous for the residents. That Damascus moment of Herman, that mighty change of heart, that's what we welcome. Any other thing will be a subject of negotiations, and I don't think that you would want us to negotiate with Herman Mashaba or any other party through your show. Sitting here, him saying something else, saying he's a kingmaker. There is no kingmaker in these sort of things. I mean, there are parties that carry the swing vote, you know, especially in the electoral outcomes that we had in 2021, which resulted in Tshwane being a hung municipality. That's why whatever we do, we have to appreciate the contribution of all parties, including those parties that actually have a seat, 2 seats, and everything else. That's why everything we do in that particular city must be driven by ensuring that we save the city from a brink of collapse that is actually was destined to go. So that's at the heart of it for it. For us, it's not about title, who's a kingmaker, who carries the swing vote, who helped carry the motion. It's about rescuing that very important city for the people of Tshwane as well as the people of this country, South Africa.
So EFF also, they don't hold 2 seats. They hold a significant number of seats in that council, and they have voiced their preparedness to be a part, let me use the right words, of government in some kind of departments or in some kind of portfolios, not necessarily the executive mayor, but certainly a willingness to be a part of that government. Are you engaging them on that?
Of course, dictated by the national policy on coalitions, as I alluded earlier. We engage everyone. We'll engage the EFF, we'll engage Action SA. On my way here, I was quite pleasantly surprised. I mean, there were members of Freedom Front Plus which were carrying placards to say, save Tshwane, save Cilliers Brink and everything. They've requested a meeting with us. My colleagues in the legislature who are the provincial leaders of Freedom Front Plus sent me a message to say we are requesting a meeting. Should we not meet with Freedom Front Plus? We'll meet with them. We'll talk to them. We'll talk to everybody. You know, not just about positions, but about how we have to reposition this very important city of our country into ensuring that it does what it used to do before the destructive and chaotic reign of the DA from 2016.
What do you make of the petition that was circulated that received a number of signatures, I think in the thousands, if I'm not mistaken, by AfriForum?
It was quite absurd. I mean, you must remember that all levels of government, including national, province, and everything, you've got parties represented there. A petition can stop a motion of no confidence. And that's why this motion took almost 3 months for it to get to where it was. You know, the DA always play lawfare, meaning involve the courts in the political affairs to buy time and derail issue, and we were able to see that when they threatened us with court papers, we looked at what they were saying, and we actually advised the speaker that give them the time that they need. I mean, Cilliers Brink is saying that he was asking for 2 or 3 more weeks. We said give him, because once we move ahead, then he goes to court. Court decides something else. They've used the court, actually abused the court role for political ends, nefarious political ends. And as I said, we're able to catch on with the lawfare they wanted to play. So we never really were bothered about that. We allowed them all the time they needed. When they went for a petition, can stop a motion of no confidence in council. What can stop a motion of no confidence in council is the DA being able to garner enough numbers to be able to stop it. It could not stop it. The rumors that the corridor talk, that they were feeding the media, false media narratives that they are meeting with certain people within the African National Conference to literally create a wedge or to drive a wedge between the provincial leadership of the ANC and the National Executive Committee of the ANC to say, no, we are speaking with national, these ones are rebels. We were well aware of these tricks that they were doing, and we allowed all of it until today when we had to ensure that this motion receives the required numbers that we needed to carry the motion.
2 years just before the next local government elections, you've got a number of issues that you're going to deal with here. You've got the Lesego Brink issue. You've got the Hammanskraal water issue that has always been there. You've got the hijacked buildings issue that you've got to deal with. You've got the municipal workers issue that you've got to deal with. Are you going to be able to do that in that 2 years?
Hence, beyond this being about a coalition, but it was more of a rescue mission. We had to rescue Tshwane from sinking deeper from where it was. I mean, it is now underwater. It was now going to the seabed, and we had to actually come in and rescue it. It's not just about that. National, and I have to thank the former Minister of Water Affairs, Minister Senzo Mchunu, including now Comrade Phemi Majodina has taken over. You know, we were stopped by Randall Williams before at the EMA from intervening before the matter in Hammanskraal. I came here for 1 hour to discuss. Before it escalated to where it got, National wanted to come in after Province said, we have a problem here. We wanted to intervene, and they stopped us through the courts. But National has intervened. We are turning the situation in Hammanskraal around. The people of Hammanskraal should soon be able to get the water. There are serious challenges, not just about you know, how much the city owes Eskom, how much it owes its service providers, but the morale of the workforce. You have a workforce that has not seen any increase, you know, and given the escalating... There was a
court challenge. You went to court and he won that case. To give them the increase. To get the exemption.
Hence I'm saying that which they cannot win on the table, they've always used lawfare to actually do. You can't deal with workers like that.
What are the things that you think are easy pickings to turn the city of Tshwane around?
Well, of course, we have to actually broker a deal with Eskom, settle the debt that we are owing. We have to increase the ability of the city to collect. We have to ensure that municipal services, municipal entities are being able to be turned around. We were faced with the same situation almost in the city of Johannesburg before we took over that particular city. It was on the brink of collapse. It was not collecting enough revenue to be able to service its residents, but also to service its debtors and all sorts of things. So we have to look into all those particular things. But for that to be able to happen, you have to put people who have the technical know-how, administrative know-how, the experience on how to run local government and ensure that the best who are suitable to run that particular municipality have been placed for the job. You will remember the last person to be able to do so was Dr. Makhubele. That's when that city was able to thrive. And therefore, you have to do that. You have to stabilize it. You know, if you look at the chaotic reign of the DA, in 8 years, they had 5 mayors. I don't know how many mayoral MMCs that they have reshuffled, and as well as the turmoil within the officials of the city, but also the staff morale. So you have to also change the attitude of municipal workers so that we are able to turn that city around. And I think that should be the primary focus. Whoever gets elected to be a mayor, the first thing they have to do, they have to meet with SAMU. They have to meet with municipal workers so that they are able to change the attitude of workers as well as bolster their morale so that they are able to do their work. Then everything else will be able to work. I know we are inheriting a poison chalice. You know, we understood that, but we're not going to bury our heads in the sand and allow the city to sink deeper and deeper and say, no, we will see it in 2026, in 2 years' time. Right. It might be disastrous in 2 years' time than it actually is now. So we have to build that solid foundation so that by 2026, then we are able to be speaking a different language, to say we've been able to fix this, we've been able maybe to have the debt that we owe ESCOM. The people in Mamelodi, you know, there's a community in Mamelodi that has not had water for 2 years. We've got to make sure that we resolve that particular situation. You've got clinics that have been built by the provincial government. One in question is in Hammanskraal, where bulk services were not rendered by the city, and therefore these people of Hammanskraal were forced now to go direct to the hospital when there's a state-of-the-art clinic. Yeah. You've got a huge investment by both national government and the provincial government, the Tshwane Special Economic Zone, where Ford is manufacturing its cars. It faced a lot of challenges because the city was not willing to actually play ball. So you've got to make sure that that is able to work. You had challenges as well with many of the companies that are located within the city, which were complaining about some of the services that were being rendered by the city. That has to be turned around. You had 2 power stations, the Pretoria West Power Station and the Rooiwal Power Stations, where after the DA took over, those power stations were almost decommissioned, have not been in service, have not been used. We have to make sure that those power stations are put back into service, and therefore Tshwane gets back to be able to produce its own energy. Let's
move to this now, because you're going to then turn around and say, you brought me, you didn't give me enough time. Because the reason why we phoned you on Monday was for you to come back and answer to this question. I'm sure you watched the interview, you saw it. ANC Youth League came here and they said they want the ANC's renewal machinery to be released on yourself and the other official that has been caught up in what is called Travel Gate. Let's talk about you, not talk about the other official. You were in 2020 due to travel to the United States to go and study, and you didn't do that. And apparently an amount of 47,000 approximately there. 43,000, yes, would have been paid to you, but you didn't take the trip because all of a sudden when you go to the airport you realize you didn't have your visa. Finding that story quite unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I found it quite upset. I've not only followed the interview by the ANC Youth League, but I followed the statement which was released by Nehau in the province. I don't know if you read the statement. Yes. I also followed the formal communication which was released by the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, which employs me. I also followed the interview by the journalist who has since been removed from the follow-up story, who never even bothered, to either call me, call the deputy speaker, or call the former speaker. I also listened to the interview by the former speaker, putting this matter to bed. Maybe let me just give you a background. I had no reason to. I wanted the truth to actually defend itself, and I want to thank you for actually giving me this opportunity. It was not even in 2020. That's another timeline which they got very wrong. It was not 2020. It was late in December 2020. No, it was late 2023. I can't remember the month. So the legislature holds your official passport. This is the passport that they even apply for you and everything. And every time you travel, they are the ones who prepare all the logistics, including going to get a visa for you, right? So they did that. We had correspondences to say this trip has been planned 6 months way into advance and everything. The week when the trip is happening, I'm burying my older brother. I communicate with the legislature to say there's a burial. If I can be recused from traveling, it's fine. The legislature advises that we have already made preparations for the trips. Therefore, this will be a fruitless, wasteful expenditure. Then I say, it's fine. The funeral is Wednesday of my older brother who died in my hands. I will travel on Saturday. It's not a problem. I present myself at the airport. When I present myself at the airport, I'm supposed to receive my passport with the visa in it. The passport is not there. The passport is still at the American embassy. I immediately, and I found there was a statement of the DA. I even called the DA leader to say, but why? I know it's politics, but why are you lying? Because I was with you at the airport. You were helping me as I was trying to go back. The legislature fetched me from my home. They fetched me from my home. They ferried me to the airport. I was at the airport on time. My passport was at the U.S. Embassy. Yeah. It had no visa. I called the speaker because I must call the speaker to say, Speaker, I'm here. And my visa is not here. My passport is not here. What do I do? The speaker then said, no, let me call officials. Calls officials, returns back to me and says that, no, hey, there seems to be a problem. Your visa remains at the U.S. Embassy. Can you be patient with us? We're asking for forgiveness. We can go and try to help you get a flight on Monday so that you can go there, because the official meetings were starting the Tuesday of that particular week. I had no issue with that. The journalist who actually was recused from the story, who never even bothered to ask us questions, then came here on Stephen Grote, said, no, we were given cash money. It's a lie. But it's a blatant lie. SNTs don't work like that. Padiums don't work like that. A day after I was supposed to travel, money gets deposited to all those people who were delegated. And by the way, I was not the only person whose passport was left at the U.S. Embassy. There were other delegates who were supposed to go there who also were facing the same dilemma. Yeah.
So you are saying that the folks at the legislature fetched you with your ticket, without a passport, and nobody at that particular point found that to be irregular.
That's why and the legislature has come. If you have read the statement, that's why I officially lodged a complaint. I also followed up and officially lodged a complaint when in the OCPOL committee, which was the one which was traveling. I also followed the interview of the chairperson of that committee, who is an IFP leader, who also was helping me in that particular complaint to say, but this is not correct. This should have been handled differently and all those particular things. So I was shocked with the headlines that it is graft and going to the US. Why would I not go to the US for a study opportunity? I've done, I don't know how many trips with the legislature on this particular study. I've never been late for any of them. I've never missed any of them. And what is worse even about the deputy speaker, and I feel for her, with everything that she has been put through by the media, when she was charged through AfriForum to say that, no, she was beaten up, she had beaten up her protector. When that protector went to testify in court to say, no, I wanted to extort 1 million from her so that I dropped the charges. And when the judge ruled to say that this was just an extortion case and ruled in her favor, no media ever published even the statement we released. No media ever even called her. Even now, the journalist says, no, this woman has pocketed around, I don't know, 500,000 and something else. She was given that money in cash to travel for 7 days. Something which was very shocking, which media houses did not even find upset. And it was published like that without her consent. I don't know how much more must this woman endure with all these particular lies?
And had this journalist... I don't want to get into the details of that because she's not here. I wanted to talk to you because I'd confined it to yourself.
Had that journalist contacted us, had he spoken to us, would have long given even documentary proof.
So where, this was in late 2023, it's now late 2024. Why has it taken so long for you to make arrangements to repay?
Well, the arrangements are not made by me. Remember, the legislature is my employer. Your employer is Newzroom. If they pay you 1 cent extra, they notify you or you notify them, and you make arrangements. Hence, I say, in an official committee meeting, which is available to the public, I raised this particular issue. I continue to raise it with the acting secretary to say, can I be furnished with an account? I don't have the account of my employer. It is only now recently that I was furnished with the account. Somebody maybe saw the communication and leaked it as if it's a big story. I've never had a situation where I was saying I'm refusing to comply. That's why even the statement of the legislature clarifies that there is no guilt on any of us. We've never even refused to actually comply. I don't want to enter into some of the issues that the legislature would have faced during that time. It went through very tumultuous era where there were a lot of issues that were being fixed in the legislature, which I don't want to enter into. And these things, we kept on raising it. We need to give you back what you gave us as SNT because we have not traveled. Can you give us our account? That's why I refute vehemently what this journalist...
So this sort of the ANC Youth League saying that, well, you are saying you will pay that now because you were caught, basically. Because now that you're saying, now it's out there, I'm caught, like, okay, then I'm going to fix this, I'll pay you back the amount.
Unfortunately, my comrades in the Youth League have to do that. I did that as the leader of the Youth League. They have to hold everyone accountable. I always ask them, they are too quiet, they need to raise issues. And I'm happy that they are beginning to raise issues. But beyond raising issues, condemning people on baseless issues, they have to also assist us on raising ideological issues that speak to the hearts of young people. I told them, I had no issues with the statement that they had to release, and I did not want anyone to defend me. The truth will defend me. And that's why the legislature came. That's why the former speaker came. The person who I was liaising with came and said, but this is untrue. You know, that's why Nehau came when its name was also embroiled in this particular issue. I never had to come. It's the first time I publicly speak about this particular issue.
Yeah. Were you involved at all in that Nehau matter of the 32 employees, that a deal should have been struck, that those particular individuals or some political interference should not be investigated?
Well, you know, all these issues are matters of public consumption. Nehau, through its representatives, addressed an OCPOL committee, a committee of the legislature, about the grievances that they had. And beyond that, they wrote an open letter to all the political leaders, including the DA, the EFF, the ANC. I sit as a chief whip. The best thing I can do is what? Is refer all these issues to the Speaker of the legislature, to say that these issues, what became a bigger issue was when there was a disruption of a sitting of the legislature, which you interviewed me about, that you were supposed to have a sitting in the legislature. That sitting was disrupted by the workers because of the challenges that are in the institution, which I don't want to mention now. I think the legislature must be called to clarify its own issues. So our role, we can't fold our arms, is to refer the issues to the Speaker. The Speaker is the one who runs the legislature. To say, there are these issues, can you begin to deal with these particular issues? I was shocked when that publication, without even consulting us, without consulting the former Speaker, without consulting the Deputy Speaker, says, no, there's a particular person who was pushed. I have an email of this person, writing a long email, wishing us well, telling us about over 2 decades in the legislature, how he has worked and how he's ready to move on. I'm shocked that he was pushed. And I think if this was a fair argument, he should have been called as well to say, hey, Mrena, where you are pushed.
Yeah.
Can you explain who pushed you?
Right.
How were you pushed?
Yeah.
Who was involved in all sorts of things?
We might still afford him that opportunity.
Yes, he has
But
to.
Lesego, thank you very much for coming in and explaining your side of the story. We appreciate it. That Lesego Makhubele, he speaks for the ANC in Gauteng. Let's take a break. In Focus continues shortly.